It is Dr. Christine Ford's credibility that is becoming less and less so. And it was weak to begin with. Now her ex-boyfriend says, "No, wait a minute. She never brought up a sexual assault of any kind to me." And they were live-ins for 6 years. She never had a problem flying. We flew on a propeller plane in Hawaii. She lived in a 500-square-foot apartment for a period of time. So much for the issue with respect to claustrophobia. He said that when they broke up, he broke up because she had been cheating on him, and she continued to use his credit card. She lied about using it, and then he said to her, "I'm going to turn this over to the fraud people at the credit card company," and then she confessed that she had, in fact, been using his credit card. Now, I want you to think about that. With Kavanaugh, he threw ice when he was in college in a bar. That is a offense so egregious, it should deny him a seat on the Supreme Court. There are a lot of credibility questions that have been raised. There's a report at Real Clear Investigations, a serious website, about the two doors. Remember, she said there were two doors at the front of her house because of her psychoses as a result of her molestation at the unidentified home. And there are two doors because of the need to escape, the mentality that she needs to escape in case one of the doors is shut. Well, we now know that's not exactly right. There are two doors, all right, but the new door led to a room that was reconfigured, which also had a bathroom, which was reconfigured, where businesses apparently were run out of this room. Now, you start adding this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen, you got a problem here. The ex-boyfriend says she did indeed assist another individual on how to take a polygraph exam, an individual who wanted to work. Her name was McLean for the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's Office. This is quite remarkable. Quite remarkable. And when you add all these things to what the excellent prosecutor did, the Republican prosecutor who was universally trashed except by me, you can see that Dr. Ford is not credible in the least as applies to Brett Kavanaugh. With respect to Brett Kavanaugh. Not in the least. And her left-wing kook lawyers, suggested to her by Dianne Feinstein, are trashing the FBI now, as the Democrats are. Now, you knew with the FBI, that's the gold standard. Now they're attacking the FBI, which is really their regular knee-jerk position, because the FBI hasn't interviewed Dr. Ford or Judge Kavanaugh. These are the same lawyers for Dr. Ford who refused to turn over to the Senate Judiciary Committee copies of her therapist notes, even though they waived privilege. Because the therapist notes will tell a lot to the committee, including whether Dr. Ford has other issues, which is exactly why the prosecutor asked about them. I want to go back to this prosecutor because it's important. The media attacked this woman. Radio hosts attacked this woman. Television hosts attacked this woman. Senior judicial analysts attacked this woman. I said, no. She's doing this exactly the right way. Now, I'm going to prove to you that that's the case, not just tell you. And it's not to pat myself on the back. It's because I think you're very intelligent. Unfortunately, most of the media do not, but I think you are. And here's what I said. I believe it was the day of that hearing. Isn't that right, Rich? September 27th, last Thursday, when I came on the air. Cut one, go. A lot of people have been trashing the prosecutor the Republicans hired to ask questions of Ford. What was her name again? Rachel what? Rachel Mitchell, I will take a different view. I want to congratulate her. She did exactly what needed to be done. Exactly what needed to be done. This is why I believe that, in the end, Kavanaugh now will be confirmed. She walked Dr. Ford through various aspects of her allegation. And what amazed me is some of these cable analysts weren't happy with it. It's taking too long. The people aren't going to follow this. The Democrats are there making speeches, and they thought that was wiser because this is all based on emotion and everything. Let me tell you the problem, folks. Let me tell you the problem. I'm sorry to say this, but whether it's on cable TV and even this business, people really think you're stupid. People really don't think you're going to be able to follow these things. You're smarter than broadcasters, including me, whether they're on TV or radio. You have a great sixth sense about things. You've got common sense. Those of you who watched the hearings, you followed everything this prosecutor was doing. She was methodically going down, raising questions in a very polite and professional way, and showing gaps in Dr. Ford's testimony. Some cases she had absolute recollection, but in most cases she had none. And I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm just saying that's what I saw. So I take exception to some out there. I thought she did a hell of a job. It was very solid. That was her purpose. That's what she did. That's what she accomplished. And she had to synthesize, understand, and then use an enormous amount of information in a very short time, and she did. And she found gaps. All right, that's me from September 27th, last Thursday. And now virtually everybody's hanging on what she said, and they should. And there's even more. As the ex-boyfriend comes forward. Notice the Democrats don't want to talk to the ex-boyfriend. Notice they don't demand that the FBI interview the ex-boyfriend. Notice the Democrats don't demand that the lawyers for Dr. Ford turn over her therapist notes from 2012 and 2013. Have you noticed that? Notice the Democrats don't demand, as I've been saying repeatedly, that Dr. Ford and her lawyers go to the Montgomery County Police Department in Maryland. So now they're saying the FBI didn't interview Ford and didn't interview Kavanaugh. Well, of course the FBI didn't interview them. You know why? This is not a criminal investigation. We say this over and over again. It is not a criminal investigation. They already know what Dr. Ford has to say. How do I know? Because we all know what Dr. Ford had to say. They already know what Judge Kavanaugh has to say. How do I know? Because we all know what Judge Kavanaugh said. It's no different. Now, it is time to stop trying to rationalize and reason with the Democrats. It's time to crush them. Crush them! It's time to defeat them. Victory! Stop playing along. I don't care if the media play along. Stop playing along. It's enough already. It was enough a week ago. It was enough when it started. They don't get to call the shots. They're in the minority. It's time to have a vote and let the chips fall where they may. And let me be utterly clear to Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. I'll bring 1,000, 5,000 people into your states to campaign against you. You may think this helps your political career while you pose as nobler than everybody else, but I promise you it doesn't. We, the real American people, the regular American people, we've had enough. We've had enough. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
In order to believe Dr. Ford, you have to suspend your ability to reason. He's given 3 different answers as to when the assault happened. Mid-'80s, early 80s, and all of a sudden, actually it was the summer of 1982, after she lawyers up. You have to believe that she waited, really, until now, to reveal that the individual who assaulted her was, in fact, Judge Kavanaugh. Never said anything to anybody else. Although her husband now has circled back and said, I remember her telling me during marriage therapy, okay, we'd like to see the notes. They won't release the notes. So that's not believable. She can't remember key details about the night, who invited her to the party, how she heard about the party, how she got to the party, how she left the party, where the house is exactly with any specificity, and, of course, most importantly, how she left the party, with whom she left the party, how she traveled back home when she got back home. The alleged assault has not been corroborated by a single person, including none of the people she's named, including, as well, her lifelong girlfriend, Leland Kaiser. That apparently has not changed based on reports today. She hasn't provided a consistent account of the alleged assault. And she had big trouble remembering important recent events. Like in her discussion with the Washington Post reporter, whether she actually gave portions of her therapist's notes to the reporter. Now, this is in July. The whole copy of the therapist's notes, or read from the therapist's notes, she doesn't remember. She can't remember if she had an actual copy of the therapist's notes when she called the Washington Post, or she had gone to her therapist's office and read the notes. Can't remember any of that. She won't provide the notes to the committee. She won't provide it to the committee. She can't remember the day that she had the polygraph. Now, this is very recent. This is, a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago? Whether it was on the day her grandmother passed away or not, she can't remember if it was video or audio recorded, and the committee would like to know. They want to see if, in fact, she was traumatized during the course of the lie detector test, as she claims. She talks about the psychological impact it had, that she doesn't want to fly, she has difficulty flying. Now, we know that was a flat-out lie. May I say that? Yes, a flat-out lie. She's flown West Coast to East Coast to West Coast. She's flown to Hawaii, French Polynesia, Costa Rica, all over the world. But when she was asked to show up for a hearing, she couldn't fly. Although it is said that she was already on the East Coast. She didn't know that the Senate Judiciary Committee Republicans, the majority, had offered to go to California to interview her in any form. And why didn't she know? People say her lawyers must have withheld that information. Maybe the lawyers didn't withhold the information. Maybe she just didn't give a forthright answer. We know from her ex-boyfriend that she never mentioned Kavanaugh's name. She never mentioned sexual assault in the 6 years that they lived together and the few years before that they dated. We know she had no problem with claustrophobia because she had an apartment that was 500 square feet. That's a small apartment. That's a very small apartment. We know that she never mentioned Kavanaugh's name to her boyfriend, her live-in boyfriend of 6 years. So you have to believe the unbelievable. To believe her testimony against Brett Kavanaugh. You have to believe the unbelievable. You must suspend your reasoning. And now that I've gone all through this, she's not the bubble lady. She came forward. She said it was her civic duty. She's presented herself to the American people, and we get to judge. Senate's not the only body that gets to judge. You and I get to judge. And we don't have to self-censor. You don't have to be rude and hateful and all the rest. I'm not that, and we're not doing that. Now, what did Kavanaugh say that was so unbelievable or contradicted? Absolutely nothing that I'm aware of. What, that he may have had more drinks one day than another day? He's the one who showed up with his calendars. He's the one who had witnesses who said he was never there. But you see, the FBI didn't interview him or Ford now, according to Ford's lawyers, who are very upset. And, of course, the Democrats are all one and the same. But that's not the nature of this investigation. It's not a criminal investigation. They testified in public under penalty of perjury. There's nothing else for them to say. So why do we continue to play footsie with the Democrats? We should play brass knuckles with the Democrats. Say enough already. And Mr. Flake and Ms. Collins and Ms. Murkowski, if you want to throw in with the Democrats, go ahead. We're having a vote. This is over. We are not going to participate in any further sham. We are not going to participate now in the trashing of the FBI. I'm not talking about the senior people at the FBI. Now they're trashing the FBI. If they're lecturing us for 18 months about the FBI, that's not the senior officials in the FBI who are doing these interviews. These are special agents, I have no doubt. The hard-working men and women of the FBI that the Democrats claim to like, but they hate all law enforcement, let's be honest. So enough's enough. We don't need to deal. Honestly, we don't need to deal with people who are diabolical. Diabolical. That includes Flake. That includes Collins. That includes Murkowski, who brought us to this point. I guarantee you, if it were their husbands or Flake's wife who are being treated this way, they wouldn't agree. You know what? Maybe we should extend this for a week. Why? What took place this weekend? Endless speculation. Endless analysis of what? The insanity is ubiquitous. It's all over the media. All over the media. I'll get to them later, as I always do. So to actually believe Dr. Ford is really to suspend the ability to use your brain, as applies to Brett Kavanaugh. If something happened to her, and it may well have, nothing to do with Brett Kavanaugh, I'll be right back.